I think a lot of very smart people ashore are scratching their heads and trying to figure out how to keep costs down while still delivering on a 120-meter yacht. Now, that impacts on luxury. So there's a trade-off here that I don't know if anyone is really openly talking about, where if you cut down the number of crew to save money, well, that's not as luxurious. So I'm even talking about luxury before I'm talking about safety. Well, safety is even more important, and people scratch their head thoroughly about safety and think more regulation will help. And no one's really talking about the elephant in the room, which you need more bunks. People, like as a yacht chef, working 18 hours a day or more when there's guests on board, I just lie on my hours of rest. And I can say that now because I'm off, I'm kind of untouchable in that.
Welcome to the Montclair Podcast. Today we have Brennan Dates. So Brennan is an American chef who has worked on yachts for an amazing 20 years plus. He has a passion for riding his motorcycle around the world. He has done quite a few trips. He's going to tell us all about that on the recording of the show. Brennan is now in Australia. He's continuing his journey with his motorbike. He's also running Super Yacht Galley Design, which is his latest project. Is basically helping super yachts and super yacht owners design a better, more functional galley and aka kitchens on board super yachts. So let's get into the episode with Brennan. Welcome to the Montclair Podcast. Today we have Brennan Dates. How are you, Brennan?
Very good. This is exciting, man. Thanks for inviting me on your epic podcast, man.
No problem. Nobody knows that, but I think it took us about 10 scheduling to be here together at the same time with audio and video. So it's let's see if that works.
Yeah, I feel like it was mostly my fault, but I'm glad it's working out now. Just I've had terrible Wi-Fi here in Australia, and just moving a lot. It's hard to be stationary at the same time as whenever you want to connect. But it's happening now, man.
It's happening. Awesome, Brennan. Can you, for the one that don't know you from your YouTube videos or your posts on social media, can you tell us a little bit about you? Like, how did you get into the yachting industry? Where did you grow up? All this kind of interesting stuff, just to get to know you a little bit better, because I feel like a lot of your content is about what you do today and, where you cook, where you travel. But I want to get to know you a little bit from maybe before you were a chef and how did you start it?
Yeah, sure. Let's see. I grew up predominantly in New England and Vermont. With a brief stint in New Jersey for 2 years, and then they kind of always wanted to be a chef. Like since I was maybe 12 or 13, got a scholarship to culinary school when I was 16, like a partial scholarship. But I won. I think I was 15 when I did the recipe, but I won the state of Vermont at 15, which is like it was. I think they were just like, "Oh, that's cute," but still, it was my first award. And the
What do you mean? What do you mean when you did the recipe?
So it was like you make a dish and you take a photo and you write the recipe out. This is how old I am. This is back in 93. So the no digital, send everything, and won the state of Vermont for Johnson and Wales University, which is at the time, I'm not sure what it is now, but one of the most prestigious culinary schools in America. At least that's what they told us. But it was.
What was the recipe, Brennan?
Vermont maple glazed shrimp, which don't make any sense at all because there's no shrimp in Vermont. Shrimp and maple syrup. I mean, they're wonderful together, but they don't naturally occur. Not even close. Yeah.
Okay, and then you won the scholarship, so you went to Johnson and Wales.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and did 2 years there. Got an associate's degree. Had an amazing time. Very strange for me to be like a country boy and then go into the city in Providence, Rhode Island, get into all kinds of trouble. That was very, as we did in college. And then got recruited to go to the Cape Cod for a seasonal job, which got me recruited to another job at a Relay and Chateau in the Florida Keys when I was 19. So all this like super young. I've been cooking food basically for money since I was 16, and in between school and when I could drive, I had to work. So, and that Little Palm Island in the Florida Keys is where amazing 2 years there under Chef Michel Raymond. And, that got me hooked on the idea of yachting. Like that's where I was exposed to it for the first time. And after that, I was like, always in the back of my mind, that's what I want to do. That sounds cool. But it didn't happen yet. I'd end up moving to Boston and working at the best restaurant in Boston for, again, 2 years was kind of like where I get pretty sick of, being low on the totem pole and then having to work my way up every time. And I guess what the biggest trigger for me to switch from, I was 100% committed to restaurants and hotels, is that I looked around and I saw a lot of unhappy people. I saw unhappy managers. I saw unhappy executive chefs. I saw unhappy restaurant owners, and I started to look elsewhere as I was like, I might have made a horrible financial decision on going to culinary school because this doesn't look very fun. And you know too, because it's crazy hours, very little money,
Yeah.
super high stress. It feels like you're saving babies and you're really not. And so I just I messaged some friends back in the Florida Keys I knew was a yacht captain, and he's like, sick, come be a deckhand for 6 months in to fly into St. Martin and be a deckhand for 6 months, and we'll drop you off in Fort Lauderdale, and you can, for the boat show, and you can find your yacht chef way. So in essence, that's what
started as a deckhand. Interesting.
Yeah, 6 months too. I remember.
So during the 6 month, did you cook at all on the boat during 6 months, or did they allow you?
No. His wife was my friend Will and my friend Juan. She was the chef, and they're kind of not that open to have me cook. But it was still being a decky was quite cool. Got to learn how to dry tenders and do varnish and all kinds of random stuff that I'm kind of happy I don't do anymore.
Yeah. So first job, and then how long did it take you to get your first actual yacht chef jobs?
Oh, ages, like 6 months. I ended up,
Yeah.
I was pretty broke. I was in Fort Lauderdale looking for work. As any chefs listening to this podcast will know, in yachting, it takes a while for that first job. For most of us,
Yeah.
some people get lucky. And then I would end up taking a job at this really famous restaurant in Lauderdale back in the day called Mark's Las Olas, which is exactly where Louis Bossi's is today. And that it's pretty cool how that kind of Chef Mark was quite famous during that time there. I needed money and I had a pretty good restaurant resume. So, but that worked to help in yachting when, as soon as I talked to someone about looking for a yacht job, they'd be like, where are you working now? I'm at Mark's Las Olas. I'm like, holy shit. I'm like, yeah, I'm working at a pasta station. So it was pretty cool. It all worked out, but it took a while.
Yeah. So your first job was as a head chef, as a sous chef?
Oh yeah. Soul chef on, the name, Blue Horizon 3.
Let me guess, on a small boat. On a
Very
small boat.
Yeah, for Broward as well. If people are listening to this and they're familiar with the industry, don't be a coward. Don't be a coward. Crew on a Broward was a thing. So it's an American shipyard that has kind of died off. They don't exist anymore. Well, I do see them. They used to be everywhere because they were cheap and cheerful, and now they gone. Yeah, my boat bed was like handmade after the fact. It was wild. Yeah.
Yeah, for the chef that don't know the yachting industry, when you work on a small boat, first of all, when you say small, it's tiny. Most of the space is dedicated to the owners and the guests, and your bunk bed pretty much looks like a shelf in a dry store.
Yeah, exactly.
That's how I would describe it. Because the space between your head and your bed actually is about this much. Chances are there might be 2 or 3 people in the same cabin, and it's basic.
And one I think this illustrates it well is that like you said, there's very little space between the bunk, you and the ceiling. So, and you're always in the bow because that's kind of the cheapest real estate inside of a yacht.
Yeah.
And there's many times where you're underway and the boat's going like this, and you're just you're laying down and you're defending yourself against the ceiling. It's so hectic. Like, it's a funny story now, but when it's happening to you, you're like, oh, I like this. Can't sleep.
Yeah. All right. So that was your first job. How long did you stay there? Did you do a season, or did you guys
Yeah.
cross to come to the Med?
No, that was a season. So that was, I think, a 90-foot Broward. So let's call it 30-meter Broward. We went all the way to New York City, where the owner was from. And what happened? And then I'd end up getting off there once we got back to Lauderdale because the boat sold, or I wanted another job or whatever. I don't remember. And then I'd end up getting on this motor yacht Magic Time, that was in California and going to Alaska. So it was this phone interview thing, and there was all kinds
Amazing.
of weird freelance jobs in between too. Not all these stories in between are good too. Like, there's a boat called My Maryland, which was quite famous for ripping through crew. I was on there for a brief instance. Like, when you're
We'll put a list on the show note of all the boats with red flags.
no, these boats probably don't exist anymore. That's how old they are. But for all those chefs that are going through something similar, just play the course, hold fast. It gets better because once you're established, you get much better options. Like, but in the beginning, it's a bit grim.
Yeah.
But Magic Time was really cool. So Magic Time, I remember being on the phone with the captain and him telling me that the boat's in San Diego. I'm like, sick. Boat's going to Alaska. I didn't care.
Yeah.
I'm like, I just need a job. And then, once I got to the boat and kind of was exposed to the West Coast of America in that way, and I fell in love with Alaska immediately. Like, it is my most favorite place I've cruised to in 22 years on the water as a chef. It's unbelievably impressive. Everything is huge. The animals, the rivers, the mountains, everything is huge. It's just, everything's feeding, and it's just this incredible place so that was a great experience. I think it was 2 years on Magic Time. And then we just got kind of put out to pasture in San Diego, and we were just sitting there. So I got right back on another boat, to go back to Alaska, brand new Westport 112. And that was a much different experience because we had no free time. We didn't see shit, but, it's all good. It's all fun.
Because it was charter, or because there was like heavy usage from the owners?
Yeah. Family boat, and each different part of the family would come in together and separately. So it was just, there was constant back-to-backs.
Yeah. So they had one private jet that they used to bring guests in and take guests back, right, from the boat. It's like a switchover.
Yeah, if memory serves too, that was the case. And also, like, we cruised a long way up north to up to Glacier Bay, and at that time already, so this would have been about maybe 2002, that the glaciers were already receding from Glacier Bay. So Glacier Bay wasn't just like incredibly amazing place to look at, like it used to be, but Juneau and Tracy Arm Glacier was incredible. So it's much farther
It's still
south.
breathtaking. It is still a breathtaking place. Like you said, the nature, the scenery, it's incredible. I was lucky to do one season there in the summer. And
did you?
It's incredible. Yeah, we did the killer whales. We saw the super pods of dolphin. There was like hundreds of dolphins around us. It was just incredible. And it was sunny most of the time. So, and we got to, it was a long trip, and we didn't go ashore all the time, but there was always one day they would take a couple of crew with them. So like this, we spent a few weeks there. So there was always a chance to go, I'll go on the next trip. So you get out of your galley, you put your shoes on and go with the guest and do like a seaplane tour around the, the bay, and go see the bears. Or it was amazing.
Yeah. I mean, the only part that was a letdown, I guess, was, to clarify, was Glacier Bay. The rest of it was incredible. Like, we took a helicopter up the Juneau ice fields, and you see these crevasses, and they're only like, let's say, I don't know, 3 feet wide. And they're like, oh, that's cute. He's like, well, if you slip and fall down those, it's the most painful, horrible death you could ever imagine, because the crack goes like a mile down, and you'll just keep sliding down. Your body weight will and you just die down there. You can't be recovered. So, and you have to jump over these things, but there's an extra layer to that tiny jump you can do in your sleep. But you're like, Jesus, don't fuck this up. It's so So gross. So I
Sounds
love
terrifying.
Alaska.
I never thought about this, but yeah, I understand. I can picture it now.
Yeah, you've seen those. They're these beautiful blue cracks. Like, it's really nice. Well, don't fall.
All right, so second boat, and then what did you do after?
Oh man, this is if we go boat by boat, this is gonna take a while. Let me skip
Just
through.
to get an idea of, how you go into, away from the States and
Yeah, yeah. Oh, that's a good. I see. That's a good conversation. So Magic Time was about 105 foot Christensen, cool boat, could be adventurous. And then it would take me. I'd get on motor yacht Charade, which is originally built for Paul Allen, a little 50-meter bedship, quite famous. Many
Mhm.
people know that. But I think that was one of his first boats that he's built. We would cruise up to like Newfoundland. So now, like even early in my career, I've done like both coasts of the U.S., but to the nth degree, like all the way up. Newfoundland was incredible, and just had a great time on there. Spent a lot of time in down the Bahamas at Electric Key, which was beautiful. And then I would start to realize that there's more to the industry because I'd catch glimpses of bigger boats coming in that I've never seen before, where I'd be in Lauderdale and whatnot. You're like, wow, where do they go? Like, and kind of hearing more and more about the Med. And at the same time, you're being told by whatever captain that you work for that this is one of the best programs in the industry. And yeah, wow, we're so way. I'm like, all right, cool. Kind of believing that. And then I would end up getting on Banner Bull, which is
let
also
me
quite
get that straight, Brennan. The captain was saying that his program was the best of the industry.
believe it or not. Yeah, they all do.
Okay. All
Uh,
right. Yeah.
yeah.
All right. Sorry. Continue.
But it's different than even necessarily the captains that like I would be working for. Would be that perspective of the American captain in Fort Lauderdale. You're like, all right, sick, and then realizing once I got on the Banner Bull and went to Europe, and also for a very like famous captain who was very well known in the industry. And you get to Europe, you're like, whoa, this is clearly, these are the best programs in the industry. Like, it's not even close. And that was a huge eye opener for me. And I think most Americans that they assume because they're told that Fort Lauderdale or Palm Beach is the center of the industry. Promise is not. It's just, it isn't. It's one of the many hubs. It's important. It's relevant, but no,
Yeah.
it's if I were to say and weigh in on this one too, Chris, you won't, but like, I think August, IYCA in Monaco, maybe Barcelona, those are where all the big dogs are playing in the world. Like that's the biggest conglomeration of massive super yachts I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I agree. I think the south of France is known for being the place. Maybe not during the full summer, but definitely before beginning of the summer and end of the summer. This is where you find all the biggest boats. And then,
Yeah.
of course, second spot, I'm going to say for a very, very short amount of time, New Year's Eve in Saint Barth in the French Caribbean.
Yeah.
They're all
That's
there.
very true. Yeah.
This is like,
Yeah.
you can't see them. They're all at anchor, but there is like, I don't know how many dozens, maybe 100 of them. All the biggest boats,
Yeah.
biggest charter boats they're all there.
They're all there.
All looking at Saint Barth from the distance.
Yeah. And then, and then getting angry on Channel 16 because they're not allowed to bring guests in because it's too windy and, and the Capitanery is getting in trouble.
Yeah.
I agree with you. I think Monaco Boat Show and New Year's Eve in St. Barth.
Yeah, definitely. No, but you're right. There is many hubs. There is new ones as well.
Yeah.
Porto Montenegro is also a nice place to be during the summer. If you have a little break there, it's a bit different. You can go East Turkey. Like there's a lot of places. There's a lot of places. There's more and more marinas that open up and that get better.
Yeah.
But yeah, there isn't only the US and Florida. So Brennan, how altogether, how many years did you work on as a yacht chef?
22 years as a chef, and then I took a year off to ride my motorcycle through Latin America to raise money for Parkinson's. But altogether, 22 years. Yeah, basically from 2001 until just a year and a half ago, I've started my own business and stopped crewing on yachts.
Yeah. So how many years on yachts?
22.
No, on yachts altogether, because that's from you started in a restaurant, right?
Yeah. So I've been Well, yeah, 22 years on yachts. I promise I'm not making that up. Yeah. I'm older
That's a
than I
lot.
look.
That's a long time.
It's a lot.
That's a
Yeah, yeah.
long time. That's a long
Yeah.
time.
Solid 48.
All right. And
Doing the math backwards, but
so
yeah.
t- yeah, two things I wanna touch on. Motorcycle riding around the world.
Yeah.
How did this come up? Like, what was the idea there? Or is it a passion? Is it what is it?
Yeah, it was actually someone else's idea. My friend Neil, we were working on this boat called Positive Carry, with this hedge fund manager, very wild guy who lost a lot of money for people. But Neil's cruised in with his motorcycle. It was a red, white, and blue BMW Dakar. I'm like, what are you doing with that? He's like, I want to go, ride to South America through rivers and dirt roads. And I'm like, damn, dude, I'll do that. You want someone to go with you? Yeah, let's go. So we're doing this trip together, and then all of a sudden he kind of like, I don't know, you just had one of those moments that we have as yachties where he just like kind of throws his tools down, quits the boat, go do something else. And so he dropped out. My stepmother gave me this really cool book about someone doing something similar. And in the back of the book, the author said, look, I met these other guys during his trip. They were doing it to raise money. What I'm doing is motorcycle masturbation. There's no actual purpose to what I'm doing. And in that one sentence, I decided to turn that trip into a fundraiser. So that was a big decision. Parkinson's was something that my father has had. And the idea was to raise money for that very worthy cause, and end up riding, all the way from Miami to the tip of South America and back. Those two words, and back,
Wow.
people they cannot hear that sometimes, where I'm like, no, I had to do it twice. And I raised $45,000 for Parkinson's research to the National Parkinson's Foundation in Miami. And I rode
Wow.
37,500 miles round trip.
How long did that take you? How many days
It
of
took a
riding?
year. Oh, these are all really, I wish I had these stats. I don't, because I'll get in 2 accidents. I would break this clavicle and be hold up for like 3 or 4 weeks. Had to do some repairs on the bike. And then another one, the front end of the bike just got pushed against the front wheel to pushed against the engine. Needed a ton of parts, had no money. Some people online helped me out. It was a whole long, beautiful experience story to tell, but yeah, it's just kind of a year. A year is the easy answer, but a lot of that is like doing cool shit, like going to the Perito Moreno Glacier in Argentina and seeing across the Andes 5 times on that motorcycle. I didn't get tired of that. I'll never get tired of doing mountain passes. Just going to Mendoza, the wine region of Argentina, passing through, being scared shitless, and passing through Colombia twice, and having an amazing time both times, and meeting the most beautiful people. Trying to find a way to get over the Darien Gap. I don't know if you know what that is, but the
No, I don't.
Panama,
Sounds like one of these gap in Alaska.
kind of. Yeah, it's a good analogy. So on a map, it looks like Panama touches Colombia.
Yeah.
No. So it's about 60 miles, I think it's 60 miles of just almost like mangrove, really waterlogged rainforest that's full of poisonous insects, poisonous reptiles, paramilitaries, drug runners. It's a lot of human trafficking is going through there. So it's kind of no man's land where a few people walk it now and again. Only one motorcycle rider in the history of motorcycle riding, Ed Peterson, this Austrian guy, has done it.
Yeah.
So I need to find a way around that. So a lot of people fly the bike over, and I was like, no, I got to put it on a boat. So me and I met this guy Isaac, and him and I just went to Colón, Panama 5 times, which is a terrible place to go. Very dangerous to try to find passage around this gap. So we ended up doing it. We ended up finding it, but it took a while. So all that stuff, back to your original question about how long it took, so all that stuff eats up a ton of time and a ton of effort and a ton of money.
Yeah. South America, and now you're currently doing the same in Australia, right?
So I'll end up flying the bike from New York City to Paris, and then I'll ride from Paris all the way to Bali. And then I'll end up flying the bike from Bali to Sydney. And just to clarify, so from Paris to Bali, it's all by land. I got on the boat with a bike through the Caspian Sea, but everything's by land. I think people hear that and like, no, it's not possible. He just ships the bike ahead. No, it's by land. And then I put it on another small boat on its own across from Penang, Malaysia to, I forget the town in, basically Penang, Malaysia to the top of Sumatra. Yeah, and then come down Sumatra and then Java. So it's been, it's doable. You just kind of have to pick your route. And originally I was going to go, Mongolia makes the most sense because then you can just kind of go up and then ship to Alaska. But being a chef, it seemed like a much better idea to go ride through Southeast Asia and just eat and experience.
Definitely.
And,
Definitely.
Yeah, the food. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I can imagine. I've been to Southeast Asia a few times, many times actually. Definitely a good place to be as a chef. If you haven't been as a chef, you need to go. You need to go because that really opens up your eyes to a different culture and to the real actual flavors from these places, not the westernized version that you have in restaurants around here and around the Western Med. So it's definitely one thing to do. Brennan, okay, so that's something you do on your time off or in between contracts, I guess.
Yeah.
And can you tell us about the business you've launched? When did you launch it? Last year?
I'd love to. It's just been over a year, so going into my second year now, and and I'm in that time I haven't really cooked at all, so I'm starting to entertain going back on board part time now, at the very least rotation, just because the business is doing well and I've got a really massive client. But what I found out in the timeline of, well, let me explain what the business is first before I go to the details.
Yeah.
So, Yacht Galley Designs is basically a yacht chef, specifically a yacht chef driven layout and equipment list for an entity, usually an owner's build team, to figure out like, we need to get the galley right. And what's happened in the past is a lot of people that have never done the job are assuming that kind of it's better if we do it because all chefs will want something different. And it's one of those things that I've noticed as I climbed the rungs in the industry and got closer and closer towards the upper levels, that it's still chaos. Like these galleys, you can tell immediately that they're not laid out by a chef, by any means. And so that means the chef has to work twice as hard for something half as good. And that to the detriment of the guests, of the yacht owner, the charter guests.
Yeah. Or even the crew, to be honest.
And the crew. But like, and between you and I, whoever's watching, I can't advocate for the chefs or the crew because no one's really going to listen. I have to advocate. That's why we're here now. That's why there's no one doing it that's a yacht chef. It's like, oh, all chefs want something different. And okay, let's pretend that's true. So your solution to that problem is to have someone that's never done the job. They're going to build out a galley and make money doing it. It just doesn't make any sense on any business to farm it out like that. Like all captains will want a slightly different bridge layout, but you don't ignore that group. And it's a complicated issue. And I don't think there's anything like nefarious going on, but they're trying to make money. And of course they should make money. But I think a lot of times the equipment's chosen on profit margin and what kind of margins they can get from the supplier than they can the right equipment, but less profit. So I'm just trying to impact the industry because I've noticed there's room for improvement, and that's it. And I want to try to help show people to advocate for that and build out galleys that are just fantastic to work in for chefs. And because the knock-on effect for guests and, like you said, for crew, it's massive. You can tell.
Yeah, and when you say that sometimes they want to save a few bucks here and there by building their own galley and not getting a consultant in like yourself. But on the long run, it doesn't make sense because you end up doing a season and you realize, hang on, this doesn't work. This door shouldn't open this way because there's there's the entry of the galley here, or there's the oven door that is in front of it, like some stuff that is like, we could have thought about this before. And you actually not saving money over the long term because you just, rebuilding basically after the first season or the first year.
Yeah, that's true. That's kind of like like every galley is going to have a refit at some point. I think if it's built properly, let's say it's 10 years, but it could be 7 to 10 years. So if you do it right the first time, you can push that down. Like you can just have the right equipment in the right spot the first go, as you
Yeah.
would want any room in the yacht. And I've calculated it. What do you think? What percentage do you think of the overall cost of a new build is the galley? All of it. What would you guess?
I'm gonna say not much. I'm gonna say
Yeah.
not much because when you see the amount of precious wood and all the welding and all the actual raw material, a galley is a box with stainless steel. Then there's
Yeah.
some appliances that go in, but it's not. We're not talking the price of an engine or generators.
No.
So I would say out of 100% is the cost of the boat. I don't know. Maybe I'm totally wrong, but I'm gonna say 2% of that.
Yeah. Yeah. You're close. And I'm guessing too, but I go 1 to 1.5 is so now with that figure that we came up with, 1%, 1.5 to 2. Now the guest satisfaction coming off that really small investment is massive. So why don't we tweak that as much as we can to kind of accelerate and improve the guest experience with yacht chefs powering that? Otherwise, we're just going to have what we have now is stagnation, lack of innovation, and we're just doing the same thing over and over again. And that's what I noticed because I've been in the industry for 2 decades. Like I've seen my perspective of the timeline. I'm like, I think we can do better. So that's it. I mean, that's my business in a nutshell. But it's been cool. It's been fun. I've learned so many different things about the industry. I've met so many amazing people too. And that could be a whole nother podcast about, and you yourself about encouraging team members to go ashore and change, and use that hard won knowledge on board and make a career out of it.
Yeah. And do you see an improvement in the way galleys are built, or do you feel like it's still very stuck in an old way of like, this is a box, we need an oven here, we need a door here, we need a sink here, and the rest
Yeah.
just check the box and then voila, you have a galley? Or do you feel like they have or different approach, which is, I'm sure that's not what they're doing, don't get me wrong, I'm sure they have like they think about this, but do you feel like it's a one type of galley, and if the boat's bigger we just stretch the galley, it's like the same layout?
Yeah, all those things that you said are exactly true.
The first one, the box that they shake.
No, pretty much. Well, my analogy is like, well, here's the list because they have amazing lists. Like I got a book and I got a list, and this is what should be in an 80-meter galley. This is what should be in a 140-meter galley, and they kind of shake the box, like you said, because it takes me a ton of time to lay out a galley. Like it's not just something I can just quickly do. It takes a lot of thought to try to use up corners, make every millimeter count, and have this thing that's going to be really practical and really cool to work in. It's like to make something that's actually going to be conducive to creativity. And so there's so many points I want to touch on, but one of them is hours of rest, but let's get there later. And how many hours chef work, how many hours the chefs work when there's guests on board, and getting them the rest that they need to stay safe and to be creative and to do a long charter season, back to back to back to back charters. Like, so why are we leaving this room that's super powerful in the guest experience, the crew experience? We're leaving it to people who make fantastic equipment. The build quality is insane. It's just the wrong stuff in the wrong spot. And that's what I want to impact. So to go back to your question, have I seen a change? I don't think it's a fair assessment because in those 2 decades I've been doing this, I've seen that we've all seen this industry just grow, like just exponentially year in, year out, which is fantastic for all of us. We get to make a better, healthier living because of that. So there's no kind of stagnation of the herd where the fat gets trimmed and things become more efficient. And I hope we never see that, but there needs to be a point where we kind of all collect as an industry and assess what worked, what didn't work, like how can we improve? And I do think that there's people in this industry, quite powerful people that are willing to listen or willing to give a platform to speak and to, because collectively we all want this industry to thrive. We all want to, whatever we're doing in it, to add value, just to make it better. And I think it's just an interesting spot to be in as a crew member, to go into this now and try to carve a new niche, to carve a new path where no one's really doing this. Not a yacht shop. Well, I think a lot of us have had the idea, but now I'm committed to doing it, to try to make a living out of it, by adding value.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people have a lot of ideas. Now, really executing on these ideas is the difference that you can make. Is if you, like you say, if you commit yourself to doing it and you're actually doing it and you stop working on yachts, this is how you're going to make it happen by physically doing it.
Yeah.
Also, one thing, Brennan, about galley that I was just thinking when you were saying all of that is, this is a space on a boat that is not just used during guest trips. It's not like the main salon or the jacuzzi that the boss uses and no one else touches. This is a space that is used like every day for the entire life of the boat. So it has to be, it's so important that it has to be functional. It has to have the right equipment. It has to be set in the right way. So also, like you mentioned before, hours of rest. Chefs are working very hard, and we can all, everyone is, I'm going to put air quote here, respecting hours of rest on the paper, because they've been told by the captain or the chief officer that, hey, you cannot put more than 10 hours here or 12 hours here because, the restriction, blah. So you kind of like comply on the paper, but then you still need to do a lot of stuff. So how do you feel like we can improve that? We can help chef work less, or do you feel like there's a big benefit into fitting a galley properly to reduce the amount of time?
Yes and no. So I think there's a lot of people scratching their head in the industry, like, how do we make things kind of safer for crew, and just I'm going to talk about crew in general and then move back to galleys. But a lot of these boats are getting a little bigger. Something the audience should know is that the highest expense for a yacht owner is the crew salaries. And so a lot of these boats are getting built with less berths, another made for bunks. And I think a lot of very smart people ashore are scratching their heads and trying to figure out how to keep costs down while still delivering on a 120-meter yacht. Now, that impacts on luxury. So there's a trade-off here that I don't know if anyone is really openly talking about, where if you cut down the number of crew to save money, well, that's not as luxurious. So I'm even talking about luxury before I'm talking about safety. Safety is even more important, and people scratch their head thoroughly about safety and think more regulation will help. And no one's really talking about the elephant in the room, which you need more bunks. People, like, as a yacht chef, working 18 hours a day or more when there's guests on board, I just lie on my hours of rest. And I can say that now because I'm off. I'm kind of untouchable in that.
But same for me, Brennan. This is exactly why I wanted to touch on this, because everyone is on your back saying, you cannot write this. And as a chef myself and yourself, very well, you're like, but I need to put these hours because I have standards. The guests are expecting a higher level of service, and I can only do this because there's only one or two of us in the galley. And even though I'm trying to make sure my sous chef, because that's how I was running, I was making sure my sous chef was not doing more than 12, which is already a big number of hours. I was doing 14, 15, 16, because I was like, I'll take on myself to do the extra so I can make sure the guests get what they want. So I don't lose my job. The guests are happy days, happy family. Everyone is good. They go home and then on your hours of rest, you just write that, I've done 12 hours. And then the captain is happy. You sign on the bottom. Is not liable for anything because you've signed that you've done only 12 hours. So the hours you've done doesn't exist. And technically you don't get paid for it. It's another topic because you get paid per month and not per hours worked, which is another question I have for you after that is like, do you feel like eventually you'll get paid per hour on yachts?
I don't know. That's an interesting, I'm trying to think if I want to say anything more about hours of rest, because there was something when you were talking about, I want to hit on the luxury.
I was asking you hours of rest, and would the galley design kind of reduce the hours that you do in a galley or the setup?
Of course, like it's going to help more than it's going to hurt. Like right now, you have galleys that are all stainless that I can't stand stainless how it looks specifically, but also it's a very impractical surface. It scratches easy, it dents easy. You have to clean it, then you have to polish it, and it just looks
It's a waste of
unconducive
time.
to
It's not
creativity.
efficient.
It's not efficient,
And also,
and
you
you feel
work
like
in
you're
a
working on
galley,
board.
you work in a box that is like dark gray, and it's like mentally, I think it doesn't help. What's your
Oh,
solution to that? What kind of material should they use on walls and on surfaces? I'm not talking about the bench, the workbench, which stainless
yeah,
steel is fine, or marble. But what about the
yeah.
rest of the surfaces?
So the easiest thing to do is to just to wrap it. So you can, if even if you have a stainless
Yeah,
steel galley now for like 40 grand, you can wrap it, which takes care of the scratching, takes care of the pointless polishing,
yeah.
because that's the basic. Now there's other solutions too where you can get into. So wood was used in the past, which it
Brennan,
costs a
sorry
lot.
to interrupt, but when you say wrap it, you mean putting a protective film on all the surfaces. And
Yeah,
I know what you're saying because we've done that on my previous vessel, and it does
yeah,
work. Like from a stainless steel, you need to rub, some kind of greasy product on it to make it shine. If you
yeah.
wrap it with this
Oil.
see-through film, everything, the wood, the whole galley entirely, except for the
Yeah,
hot surfaces, then you can just take, vinegar, water, or some, sanitizer. You just wipe it with a cloth, and there's no stain. It's clean. It's
yeah.
fast. You're saving like, a lot of time doing that. So that's what you
And
mean by wrapping.
yeah, exactly. Thank you for making me clarify that, because there is heat resistant stuff. You can get your oven wrapped, and you
Yeah.
can leave out obviously the control panel, the window, and you can wrap it whatever you want. So now we can talk color schemes. We can talk about getting away from this stainless steel box. It looks like you're working in a morgue. Like I pull open a fridge and there's dental
That's
plan.
a good, yeah, it's a good analogy. Yeah, it is what it
It's
looks
like,
like sometimes.
I think something else that you and I should talk about too, and I want to hear you weigh in on it. But like, I want people to empathize for a second what it's like to be on a busy charter boat or a busy private boat where your first trip's going to be, let's say, mid-April, maybe end of April, and the last trip it could be as late as the beginning of October. Now, I've had seasons a hell of a lot more than one where I've had 5 days off in that time,
Yeah.
5 days off. And when you're on, there's guests on board and you're working 18-hour days. So so now if we can talk about waiting on that, but also if you want to talk about getting paid by the hour, yeah, because I've worked out my hourly rate. It's not that good.
No, but I never thought about it actually, Brennan, because I see the salaries now because I recruit chefs all the time and I speak to clients. They can be yacht manager, they can be captain, they can even work in, private residence for, running the houses for some of the top people in the world. And to be honest, no one ever talks about hourly rate. They said, okay, we want a chef. We want the best chef. Obviously, everyone does. I want
Everybody,
the cheapest chef. That's also happened.
yeah,
But they just say that, okay, we have a budget of like, this much amount of dollars or euros or, pound to pay. But it's very funny that they never talk about the hourly rate. It's almost like if like they and I'm gonna be maybe a bit controversial here, and that might hurt me in the future, but it's almost like they're buying you. They're paying that price, and they have you for a month for that
yeah,
price,
yeah,
and they can do whatever, and they can ask whatever, and they expect, and they should expect, they expect you to know that you're gonna have to do whatever hours they need to satisfy them. How is this logical?
yeah. I mean, let's see. The closest thing I can come to is like I think Michelin star restaurants I think are similar where they say, like you said, they buy you. I think for like
No, they were, but they're not many people that still does it because they're not allowed to do it anymore. So they kind of got back and be like, okay, hang on, they did that many hours. We need to close one day instead of 2 days. We're going to be closed 3 days per week, and then we're still going to work hard every day, but at least we have 3 days off or 2.5 days off.
yeah,
But it's just
yeah,
something that I thought it's kind of funny that we never really we ask people to write down the hours of rest. What about the hours of work? Why are we not using that to pay people?
yeah, yeah. That's a very good. I like that because we already have the mechanism in place to track it. That because we have to.
Yeah.
Like
And then
honestly,
if you work 15 hours or 16 hours, then instead of making, 10K a month at the end of a busy season, maybe you make 25. And then you're like, I'm dead, but I know what I've did. And at least I'm getting what I work for.
because the other way is that you work backwards and you're like, well, I did, let's say 30 days, 18 hours a day. You do those hours, add them all up, you subtract them from your salary. To shit. You could work at McDonald's for more per hour. Now you have to
Yeah.
put in overhead because you're not paying rent anywhere. You're sleeping on board. The food is covered. There's more to it, and you add tips on top of that. But it isn't. No one, and I feel like, and you're actually a much better kind of information source than I am. But COVID, all salaries kind of went stagnant or down, and they haven't come back up. And that is an interesting point because I don't think the salaries are really that great these days.
Now, the only difference is, Brennan, what I see is that some boats are paying a little bit more. And when I'm saying a little bit more, I'm saying you are an amazing chef. You work, 10 years plus on yachts. You have high-end restaurant background. So you know what you're doing. You can run a kitchen, and you can run a galley. You're very, very capable. You have excellent portfolio, and they pay you more than 10K a month, basically. That's become kind of the average, which is still, again, if you're working crazy hours for a month, it's not a lot of money per hour. But
Yeah.
that's the topic we talked about earlier. But
Is that
what they do
rotation
now
or
more, and
not rotation for 10K?
that's what I was gonna talk about. Now the better thing is that there is more bigger yachts over 80 meters, and most of them are now offering rotation.
Yeah.
But the funny thing is, you would think, okay, I can get 10K on the boat working, 10 months a year, so I get 2 months off. Or I can work on the boat the same size that has rotation. That's gonna give me 2 months off every 2 months, so 2 on, 2 off for pretty much the same salary, which at the end, it's not very logical. You know what I mean? It's like you're better off on the rotational contract, and if you don't have it, you're actually making half the money.
Yeah.
Because the salary is the
Yeah.
same. It's just some boat are, oh, we're gonna take a hit, we're gonna cover the cost. But they know they cannot get a proper chef for less than the average amount per month, which is 8 to 10K, we're gonna say.
Yeah.
But then they give you rotation. So like either you're lucky to be on a rotational boat and you earn the same as the guy that doesn't get rotation. And you at the end of the day you earn the same salary, but you work 50% less.
Yeah. I think rotation is way healthier. And I agree with you.
It is.
It's so much healthier. And I thought about this too, and feel free to keep it, but it's like if you talk about a normal person with weekends off, there's 52 weeks in a year. That's 2 days off a week. That's 104 days off a
Yeah.
year to start, right? Then you add holidays. Then you're almost touching rotation anyway as a normal human. Yet us
Yeah.
yachties have been denied kind of that, and we take it on ourselves. I don't want to make it sound like we're indentured servants. We decided to come to this career. We decided to get good at this career, stay in it, invest the time,
Yeah.
make the mistakes, and we've earned our way in it. But yeah, I think the industry is moving in the right direction with more and more rotation. And even for junior crew, a lot more of them are getting like 1-3 or even 4-2.
Yeah.
And
Which is a rotation. I'm sorry, but I know on the groups and all the chefs group, people are saying, oh, 4-1 is not a rotation. Well, it
yeah,
is. If you're getting every 4 months to the date, you go home for 30 days, it is a rotation. It's not a set, equal amount of rotation that's as a head chef, but at least you got something to look forward to. And if that's respected, then you got, work 4 months, you get a month off.
yeah,
But yeah, still a long stretch, 4 months, no break.
yeah. But at least, like you said, you can plan for that 1 month where in the old days, you just didn't know. You couldn't plan anything. You didn't even know what port you were going to be in. You didn't know what country you were going to be in. Like, and you're just, can you go and leave in 2 weeks? You're like, yeah, I guess so. Yeah. All right. And they'd fly you somewhere. So, yeah, it is nice that the juniors are getting rotation too. Cause even though juniors catch a lot of shit in the industry, they work their ass off on charter. They work their ass off on guest trips, and they deserve to have a life too. And it just helps establish just a healthier industry and less burnout. So we don't lose, and you can comment on this as well. Like, I think we are losing a lot of good people to burnout or, crazy things happen on board in the first couple of boats. They're like, oh, this industry is fucked. I'm out of here. And then I just think it sets a much healthier precedence up and down the chain of command.
Yeah. Yeah. No, we're making progress. We're making progress slowly.
Yeah.
Luckily, we're learning, and the people on top are learning from the past, and they're trying what they can as well. Let's not forget that also captains and managers sometimes are trying to set rotation, and they hit a wall because, why would we double the cost of the crew?
Yeah. The
Just
most
give them
expensive
another
cost.
month off or something, and it's not always possible to. It's not up to them basically to decide. Yeah, let's just put everyone on rotation.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
we'll keep trying. We'll keep trying. Hey,
Yeah.
Brennan, what kind of tools, or is there anything new you see in the galleys now that are being built? Anything that is new? Anything that you feel like should be in every new built galley in terms of
Uh,
appliances, equipments, setup?
I tell you what shouldn't be in every galley, which they are, is melee ovens. Like I think they're just a disaster. They're for a home. Like they're for a
This show
home.
is sponsored by Miele.
Yeah, exactly. They'll never land any responsibility. Okay, so on to that. So it should be economy steamer. Yeah, the home stuff. There's no home that's going to cook for 12 guests and 15 crew. That's not six times a day. That's not what these things are built for. Chief engineers hate them because they're always breaking. Just no, no, no. You need to buy the big dog marine grade appliances. But this will save you money in the long run, 100%. And then like the cooler stuff on the bigger boats that I'm seeing is the Ivarios by Rationale. Those are badass. Those are going in all the bigger boats that I'm doing now, and
And
sometimes more than one.
I need to say something about the rationals. They used to be these massive ovens, and now they've got a version that is like
Yeah,
tiny compared to the old size.
yeah.
And this is really good because not every boat has the size to have a rational. Because we're talking
True.
like the tray is almost a meter long, and it's like you can cook for the whole, army camp with these things. There's like 10 shelves, and you can cook for hundreds of people. So now they're making it smaller,
Yeah,
which is those are very, very good ovens. I mean, those are like the
the
Ferrari of
best.
ovens, I feel.
Yeah, they're the best. MKN is right up there. I think the gap so Rationale MKN, the gap between 2 and 3 is massive. Like it's pretty big gap. But 1 and 2 are incredible units, and like you said, that have that small unit. A lot of stuff. Another reason to get it right the first time is to retrofit this stuff and try to put a bigger oven in where there was this little dumb home oven. This is another funny thing that I think you'll like. Like, why are we always putting hobs on top of ovens? It's only because our parents and us used to buy the whole unit with hobs on top of ovens. There's no rational reason to have ovens on the ground. They get used so, I said rationale, I threw that in there. That like they get used so often. You gotta like get on your knees to get in the back, like to put them in a nice stack or have them eye height because they're, especially as they get more technologically advanced and you can do more badass shit in these ovens. Like I want to be able to see it.
To be honest, it's dangerous as well because when you have an oven that is below the work surface, when you open it, what happened? What's the
Yeah,
physics gonna happen if you're steaming something? It goes to
yeah,
your face. If you're
yeah,
cooking something, the heat goes to your face. Like it's just
yeah.
space wise, it makes sense. But I
Kind
agree that
of.
they should all be like maybe not a high level, but definitely on a bench level.
Yeah, bench. Yeah, not super high, but like in order for it to be super high, it needs to go on the Rational 10-1 or 10-2, which is it's a huge tall unit. Usually, and I'm a tall guy too, so whenever I say stuff that's not that high, you gotta kind of reel me back in. But I also think in galleys, a lot of vertical space gets wasted where you have this big dumb cabinet there when you could have had a double stack of whatever, Rational, MKN, and then all the under hob space is for pots and pans, and you can get these beautiful heavyweight pull out drawers. So that it's just, there's so many ideas and so much kind of like innovation that can happen that's not on every boat. And I mean, from the smallest boat in the industry to the biggest, there's some really cool ideas that just makes the chef's life easier, which again, no one gives a shit about that. Ultimately, it makes the guest food better. Like the guest
Yeah.
experience goes this way because you hold on to a chef longer. Because believe it or not, if you own a yacht and you've got a full ship galley and you want Michelin, that chef is going to get so annoyed they're going to leave as soon as they can. They're going to find another boat that has a realistic galley to actually do what they can do. And yeah, equipment does matter. Any chef can cook anywhere. Yeah, of course. But you know, I'm not cooking in a campfire if I don't have to. Well, that's not true. I love cooking in a campfire, but that's a terrible analogy. Erase that.
Cat.
Come on.
What do you think about and that's something the captain loves to hear. What do you think about open flames in a galley? Like, there's a lot of this
Oh,
small, cute Japanese
ah,
barbecue that comes in the galley now, like the brick one, which are amazing because they just keep the heat. You can make amazing little skewers and yakitori or all this kind of cool stuff.
yeah.
Are you for or against that? Because and I'm gonna give you my opinion since you don't ask. I love to have barbecue on the back of the boat, like an actual,
Yeah.
maybe a gas barbecue, but at least so you can do like some outside cooking with the guests because it just gets you out of the galley, once a
Yeah.
week, and it's like you can interact with people. And as a chef myself, I always felt more comfortable interacting while cooking, because I'm kind of like showing what I'm doing. I'm not just standing there and like being awkward in front of them having small talk. So open
Uh,
flame, what do you think? Is it possible? Is it okay? I know it's safety wise, it's a bit of hazard.
Man, so like I've been fighting this for 22 years to try to get to have open flame, to have a grill on board, to get whatever I could. And I know for a fact, I'm probably not going to name boat names now, but I know that there's more than two large boats I've been on that had Josper ovens. And for those that don't know, that's a charcoal fired just beast. And
Yeah. Is it
it is
lava stone inside or charcoal? It's charcoal.
it's charcoal, I think. I think you can get different versions of it too. I know a boat's got a tandoori, and I'm pretty sure it's a charcoal tandoori, not gas. So like there is in the galley a ton of redundant safety equipment. Like there's a ton, and it's in a fireproof box. So it's up to the captain. It really is. And yeah, but yeah, I think stuff outside. I mean, all those kind of cool mobile pizza ovens can go out on
Yeah,
the
the
sun
egg.
deck and on the swim platform, and you can cook the uni pizzas, and um, it's changing. And yes, some boats even have gas in the galleys as well, but induction is twice as fast. I would never get gas in the
Yeah.
galley. But there's always these kind of outliers too. And now all of a sudden there's more and more guests. There's more boats being built with 18 guests, 22 guests. Like, what's going on? These things that I thought were permanent are no longer permanent.
Yeah. But Brennan, I remember speaking to a chef on a yacht. I think the yacht was, can't remember the name. I think it was a 60 meters yacht. And I was talking to the chef and I saw that he had this actual barbecue in the galley. And I was asking him, I said, "Oh, how come is your captain okay with that?" And he was like, "Yeah, because basically we looked at it and the chief officer or the engineer, I think they both work together to create a risk assessment saying, okay, what if, and then have everything ticked. And then they were like, there you go. If something happened, we have solution. We can prevent things from happening because we are ready." And they were like, now we can actually have the galley. Can actually have the small barbecue in the galley,
Yeah.
which makes sense. That's how everything is done on the boat, right?
Yeah. It's a really good point. I never thought about doing a risk assessment because we did, I've had yakitori on the last two boats I've had, with the bincho tank charcoal, and I've even gotten like the cheap Chinese bincho tang when you have to put it in the oven to dry it out, and it's like making all these popping noises in the oven, and it's because the cheaper stuff actually has like small amounts of water in it that expand and actually can
Yeah.
explode, which I found out the hard way. I found out in the oven and not really in the hard way. But yeah, that's a really good idea to do it. Just to have the cheap officer because everyone loves that flavor. And I think as I got older as a chef, and you can weigh in on this for sure, but it's like to have the fat drop onto a piece of red hot charcoal and then turn
It
into
basically
smoke.
smokes your stuff. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But you don't get that with gas. The flavor is dog shit. It doesn't have that same, doesn't hit as hard. And it's very hard to describe to people that maybe don't care. If the captain doesn't care, chief engineer doesn't care, you know what I mean? Like, well,
Yeah.
let's use the gas one. I'm like, all right, yeah, sweet.
Yeah, yeah, of course, of course. If no one cares about anything, it's going to be a lot easier. Everything's going to be a lot more simple.
But they have no one cares. Well, I like that. Yeah, it's true. It's a good
Hey,
tattoo.
Brennan.
No one-
Yeah. Oh, let's get a matching one. Brennan, if we go back in time, when before you started cooking, if you were to do something else, what do you think you would do if you were not a chef?
Oh, fried motorcycles. Oh, yeah. Let's see. That's a good question.
That's not a job. Or maybe you can be a pilot. I don't know.
I don't know. I would have to travel. Like
You
I've
think the
always wanted.
travel is what took you to the yachting industry?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I think a lot of chefs say that when they become a chef. Oh, you can work anywhere. And that's like working anywhere is like, I don't know. They picture like some guy with a pole over his shoulder, like, hey, do you need a chef? It's like, now the, for me to travel is just, it's really fueled just about every decision I've ever made in my life. And it's a necessity as I sit here in Tasmania talking to you,
Yeah.
nowhere near any yachts.
With excellent internet connection, I have to say.
Hey, we're pretty stable. We're pretty stable today. It's been bad. Oh, yeah, but to be honest, I'm really loving and geeking out on drawing things in 3D. So part of what I do for work, for galley design is to the millimeter I draw in 3D, and a lot of time I'm just sitting like this, just staring at the computer, like trying to figure out a problem, trying to figure out a solution. And I think that's what made me a good yacht chef, and you a good yacht chef as well, because all we do is solve problems. Like every day is some sort of problem solution kind of.
You have to be adaptable, because that's something about cooking that I tell people that is very, it weighs a lot on, it did weigh a lot on me, is that every day you do something and you're not just pressing a button, it's not like black or white. It's like you have to adjust your skills and your knowledge to every second, because there's more water, there's less salt, the tomato is like this, there's less sugar, there's more sugar, everything. It isn't a set science, but you have to use science to transform and get a set result, which is like, there's so many variables that it's actually very, and that's what I feel with chefs that get burnt out, is that, there's the physical part, but there's also the mental part, which, okay, we're not building rocket ships. And like you say, we're not saving babies. That's fair. That's a fair assessment. But still, it's sometimes I just wish there was like clear things so I could just do my job because I know how to do it. But there was less variable in, the input. You know what I mean? Like if you go, like, let's say, look, an example of something I've seen. When I started, I used to, I did a lot of work in the south of France on yachts. It was great, amazing produce, and you can get everything there. And then I worked for this guy that had a house, this gentleman. He had a house in the UK, he had a house in the south of France, and then the missus was from Brazil. So then we go to Brazil, private jet, traveling with them, amazing, rock star chef and all that. And then we go there, and they asked me to make this dessert, which I made a million times, maybe not a million, but definitely hundreds of times. And then I found out that the gelatin that they had there was totally different. The cream that they had there was totally different. So it's like I knew how to make it, I knew what product I could make it to, but then I was, the ingredients were like so different, because things like, or even salt, if you go to the Caribbean, you buy a kilo of salt, and you go to the south of France, you buy salt, or you go to, some other country and you buy salt, you're like, it's not the same amount of salt you need to put. It's not the same level of saltiness, which people would think I'm crazy to say that, but I can tell you it's not the same. And then that changes everything. That's when you need to adjust yourself on the product. And that was a challenge for me at the end.
Yeah. I think, that's one of the things that isn't those aren't the fun challenges. I agree with you. Those like, oh, this flour sucks. Like, why is it
for the flour?
Yeah. And every country calls flour a different name too, which is super annoying.
Or yeast, or butter, or
and back to gelatin. Gelatin, I've had gelatin not work after, like, if I go to a boat and I'm like, why is this gelatin working? And I crack open a new box, it works. Same with baking powder, goes off too, where it doesn't pop anymore. Where you're like, this works all the time. Why is it not working?
And then you look bad as a chef. You look bad, or you feel bad. You're like, oh, or I have like 20 years experience and I can't make this, muffins.
But worse is because I wanted to comment when you were talking about, the challenges of being a chef. And I think Danny Davies said it once on a pretty public rant on Facebook about like having a mistake-free day, because a mistake-free day means that you're only working 18 hours. Like if you mess up that dessert that you're talking about, well, I can't get that time back. That's a half hour forward and a half hour back that I'm screwed now. And that all these changing variables and all these outside influences, they make it really easy to make mistakes. and you're just defending yourself from like mistakes the whole time. Like you just can't,
No.
because you'll lose time that you don't have anyway. You don't even get enough sleep.
Yeah.
Wild.
Pay your chef per hour.
Dude, yeah, totally.
Let's
Oh,
start a campaign. Let's start a campaign. Let's see how many likes we get.
not many, only from the chefs.
Yeah. So we'll get many, but unfortunately, it's not going to change much.
No.
Hey, Brennan, what,
Yep.
few more questions before you go. What
Yeah.
do you do to relax? Or what did you do?
Uh,
Like, let's put it this way. What did you do when you were working on yacht as a yacht chef? What did you do to relax? Or did you allow yourself to relax? Or how did you?
I'm not a very relaxing kind of guy. Like I always just kind of fill my time, and like I've got
That's
a
because you're a
very
chef.
active brain. Yeah. An active
That's
brain.
because
That's a
you're a
good,
chef. Because they don't teach you to relax. They teach you to be on and always available.
yeah, definitely. And then you're working in restaurants and you're done work at 1. Yeah. Go to sleep and then come back in the morning. It's like, nah, I just got off work, like,
Yeah.
no, my brain, hence riding a motorcycle around the world, starting a YouTube channel, starting a business. Like I don't have a lot of chill, and I like that, but sometimes it is quite annoying. But I'm always, right now I play a shitload of chess. I've played chess every day for the last 7 months, and because the brain is going, I might as well put it in a direction. And
Yeah,
that's
but
another,
I think you're actually focusing on only one thing, and it's probably good for you as well. It's probably some kind of
oh,
mental relaxation.
well, I can't play. It does keep me up. So I will gets me because if I play a 10-minute game, it's quite quick. But
Yeah.
I do attacking, defending at the same time, or someone's attacking hard and you're like, well, what if I attack? That's the best defense. It's such a great game. It's the best puzzle game on the planet, I reckon. It's so good. But other than that, relaxation has always been kind of struggled at. Haven't had the best, I don't have the best sleep rituals, trying to work on that. But yeah, in essence, I grew up in kitchens. You get
Yeah.
done work, you either go home and eat something, roll around in bed till for an hour to 1, 2 a.m., get up whenever, or you go out and have beers and play pool. But
Yeah.
to grow up like that it's not all bad. I'm not going to sit here and paint some, but we know the ills that come with that. But I also think there's no relaxation techniques. There's no kind of figuring out what to do at 1 a.m. when you get done work. What do you do? How do you
No.
relax? How do you
No.
unwind? But there's no
But
roadmap for that.
I agree with you that, starting very early. I started when I was 14 and a half, working in kitchens. And you're right. You basically grew up, as a chef. You kind of, this becomes your identity. And relaxing is not something they teach you because there's no time for it. But
No.
I'm working on it myself today. I'm definitely working and trying to, like you say, my brain also goes a million miles an hour. I've got, about 6,000 ideas a second. I'm trying to just pick the best ones. Because some stuff are just crazy. But I use this as a superpower, I think.
Yeah.
But I'm also trying very hard now that I'm older, that I'm a father, that I'm not working in the kitchen anymore, to just slow down and, try a bit of meditation, try a bit of things to, a bit of keep that under control.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm pretty bad with meditation. I know it's good for me, but I'm just not drawn to it. Um, my new habits are, I'm probably in bed by 9 and I'm up at 5. And I think that I have so much on my plate now. I can't really relax, and that's a good thing. I'm thankful for that. But there's my life is very full with the motorcycle trip, YouTube, gallery design. Those are 3 things that mean the most to me. Obviously gallery design is number 1, and then motorcycle trips number 2, and then YouTube's under that. But all those things have little side projects, and I love the hustle of that. I love having to have a to-do list. It's like a prep list and being and it's well, this is the braise. In essence, I got to get this on first. And then that's going to cook for a while I do the other shit. And I think a chef mine, I was told this by, I mentioned him earlier, Chef Michel Raymond at the Relais and Chateau in the Florida Keys. He's whatever chefs do after they've stopped becoming a chef, they're usually quite good at it. I'll never forget, because at the time I was so pissed off. I was just getting used, double shifts. And I was seeing this going. I was no, I quit. I'm going to go drive a pedicab in Key West, the bicycles you put people in the back, because I heard they made a lot of money in my stupid little young brain. And that's when he said, Yeah, you'll probably be good at that. All chefs are good at stuff when they do something easier. So yeah,
Do you feel like you keep your agenda and your work list busy all the time
yeah,
in purpose
yeah. Um,
or because it's a habit?
good question. I think similar to you is like I always have ideas, and, and some of them need to be worked out a little bit. But there's always like walking. Walking is another thing. Just to go for walks, I have the best ideas on a walk, and because I can't have my phone, there's clarity. I'm looking around, and I think to really disconnect from that's the closest thing to meditation that I have right now.
I was just gonna say, this is your meditation. You maybe
Yeah,
don't realize, but this is a time that you spend just with yourself and maybe just let it flow. And
yeah,
this could be kind of like focus meditation.
as well as riding the motorcycle, um, and just riding, no music, because I've done on the same motorcycle 92,000 miles, so 150, 160,000 kilometers. And there's
Yeah.
certain memories that I have connected with that bike. I can only access those memories, it seems like, if I'm on it, which is a whole nother different conversation. But because I rode so many miles without really any music or books in my head, is that I can spend hours and hours just on my own on the motorcycle. And the hard part about that, the worst part about that is it's really hard to write shit down when you're on a motorcycle, because I've had some really good ideas or funny thoughts, or I can access different parts of my brain more so through the bike than from walking, but walking is a very close second and
Yeah.
safer.
Yeah. Awesome. Last question, Brennan.
Yeah.
Why did you start the YouTube channel?
Uh, uh, so YouTube, I think I came a little bit late to the game in terms of what I was already doing. I think, and this goes for anyone in yachting, like if you could document your life in yachting, I think a lot of people would like to watch it. It's just fascinating to people. Hence we have Below Deck. And then on top of that, so to have an interesting career that way, and to go to Alaska and to go to the Maldives and to go to Singapore by boat, that blows people's minds when you tell them. And like, so you kind of tell your friends and family when you go home or you meet them, like, oh, you should have a YouTube channel. So that a lot of people echoed that a ton of
Mm.
times. You should have a YouTube channel. And then the idea of the motorcycle trip, I already done the kind of the big one through Latin America. And then I was doing it to do it at the time. And then it turned into, well, I have an opportunity to encourage people to travel, because I'm not doing the fundraiser for Parkinson's anymore. But I also think like, well, I'm a bit of an idiot sometimes. Like I make a lot of mistakes and I can still get my ass around the world on this motorcycle. So that means in my mind, like anybody can do it. And I want to encourage people, because I think, and myself included, a lot of our life is based around fear and resistance to certain
100%.
fantasies that are accessible. Like you can do that. You can definitely do it. So I just wanted to promote some kind of access and, like, look, if I can do it, and I'm pretty good about, if I mess up, it's going on YouTube. Like I'm like kind of grave, and I'm like, oh God, grab the camera. Look what I did, like, but it's, yeah, it's important for me I like telling stories as well. And a lot of times I'm on my own, and it is kind of fun to talk to a camera and just talk shit in the middle of nowhere. And again, it just connects me to something I like doing.
Yeah. No, but I think it's a good. You're right. It's important to document what you do, and if it's only important for you, then that's already a start. It's good enough.
Yeah.
And if other people like to watch it, then it's a bonus.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's good. I do like looking back on the memories sometimes. I've got some great ones with my father that are very, very powerful for me, but, it's, yeah, it's really fun. Unfortunately, YouTube costs me a shitload of money. If I can get it to break even, I'd be stoked, but
What does it
that's
cost you
enough.
money for the editing? You mean, and all the post production?
Yeah, for post-production editing. Yeah. So I have a video editor, and each video costs me around like 700 US, but they're staggered. So it's not like, yeah, it's just, I need to concentrate on building my business. So at the same time, I've got a money draw with YouTube, but it's like a passion project where
Yeah.
I like doing it a lot. And yeah, I like working with Jack a lot, and I'll pay him. He's a brilliant editor, but it costs me money. I make like $30 a month off YouTube. One video I did, I made about $700 off of. but I think lifetime for my channel, I've made just under $2,000,
Yeah.
and there's over 150 videos. So you do the math. It's a losing battle, but at some point I'll get my head above water and be able to be like, yeah, break even, maybe make it profitable. It's just not happening yet.
Yeah. Not yet. It'll come.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Brennan, thank you so much for spending the time here. It was awesome to get to know you a little bit more. I feel like we should have more conversation, and I feel like it might happen.
Yeah. This is an honor. Thanks for having me. It's the only second podcast I've been on. It's, and I agree. I think two chefs that have seen the busy industry that are outspoken enough to be honest. And,
Yeah.
we can have some opinions on actually how to make the industry better, safer, career advice, that sort of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's do it. Thank you so much,
All right,
Brennan.
man. All right. Thank you. See you, Chris.